Good evening, it's me, Mr. Rena Star, and I'm back with my vlog. And today I just want to talk about the Sudanese people finally standing up for themselves and protesting against that brutal, horrible dictator, Bashir. Forgot what his full name is, probably I forgot what his first name begins with. For what I know, his last name is Bashir. Okay, and he's basically a full-on dictator that does whatever the hell he wants. He cost the country, the south of Sudan, literally to split up. He's basically a puppet dictator that was put by the West to be in the north. Apparently, the British um, and the Egyptians, were calling the brown people of northern Sudan Arab when they're clearly black Africans, but they just decided to split them up and divide them by calling the Muslims Arab and the South dark Nubian Christians African. So this man had been put there and already managed to have the country split in half because of his stupidity of hiring murderous people and causing a war in the southern part of Sudan. So he's not a very nice man. He brought a very strict Islamic um, law in the country, and even like 10 years ago the women you know couldn't wear trousers. They would be flogged on the street for wearing trousers. And what I'm seeing is like, the push of these extreme Islamists in African states. It's a way of like controlling the country. And I feel like the North Africans are pushing, and the Arab countries are pushing to Islamize these countries to an extreme level so that they can have control over them. So, Bashir, he literally held on to the north of Sudan while the south managed to break off, and now they have their own leader. But as with all new countries, there's always instability. But yeah, the guy is just refusing to go, and he's just being propped up by Egypt in the north that does not want to see a strong united black Sudan. So they're funding all these rebels in that region. So, the Sudanese are very, similar to the Ethiopians. There's, not that much difference. We're practically the same people, but, it just feels like the Egyptians and the British and the Westerns do not want to see a united black African continent. So they really did help causing tensions in that region, especially with Darfur, where there's oil, where there's any wealth. A lot of these Americans and Western countries got involved, and that's what we see Sudan as it is. I mean, the north has been relatively safe. It wasn't, it's not like because they've got oil, so so wealthy country, but there was a significant amount of repression, just like the Ethiopian regime, which was put also by the West. The thing is, when the West put, uh, what's the word? When they put these male dictators in power, they're not nice people. The reason why they're put there is so that they can work easily with the Western countries. So they put the most nastiest in people in power, which means that they treat their citizens like crap, just like in Ethiopia. We've had 26 years of these disgusting people, rebels that were funded by the West, because why would they want to put someone that benefits the country of Ethiopia? They want to put dickheads in power, and that's what they did. So for the past 26 years, there have been Western countries such as Britain have been propping these dickheads in Africa to be their little lapdogs, and they have been their little lapdogs, and they've been getting all this aid money and stuff. And they've been, so basically, they were put in the, but the poor people of Sudan and Ethiopia and generally in Africa are the ones suffering, and they would complain about the repression, but the disgusting Western media will lie and pretend that it's all happy and plain sailing, and never ever express their concern. But as you know, the Ethiopian people had enough, which was like 2 years ago, and they did their mass protest, and it went global. And then eventually the idiots that were in power for the past 26 years had to leave, and we have obviously a new president in Ethiopia right now. So yeah, we're just trying to sort out the mess that these people that were put by the West from, when was it, 1991. So we're trying to sort out the mess. So the same thing with Sudan. This man that was put there was put by the West. So it's always someone from a different country that put him in power. And Bashir is a complete asshole, just like the former Ethiopian president. Now this Bashir, he's such a horrible man. Would kill people and like the same, typical dictator bullshit that they do. But what is really, really shocking is Britain allowed £9 billion of the Sudanese the Sudanese GDP, like their actual bank, to be stored in the UK. Like Bashir happened to have taken £9 billion from Sudan and put it in a UK bank, probably Coots or whatever, or put it in the English bank, in bank basically. And the UK are quite happy to accept £9 billion of Sudanese money. This is why I mean, like, they work hand in hand with these dickheads in Africa. They put those dickheads in there, and they also facilitate and rob the country's economy by storing the stolen, looted African money in Western banks. Just the same thing with these bandits that they supported during the 1980s. They managed to flog the entire Ethiopian economy and have it stored in the UK, Switzerland. Like, they're willfully stealing from African countries. And these Western countries, UK, yes, you primarily, they need to be held responsible because they're allowing this. They're allowing the innocent people to be imprisoned and tortured, and they're also allowing the huge flogging of their money, like their whole money. Why would Bashir need £9 billion? Like, I understand how greedy they are, but he takes it to another level. 9 billion. It's not even a million. I mean, it's not even 10 million. It's £9 billion. He managed to literally, because he knows his time is up. So the dickhead just stored, like, taken the whole country's oil revenue money and just stored it in the UK. The UK needs to return it back to the Sudanese people. You can't get away with stealing huge sums of money like that. And just the same thing as the Ethiopian former regime liars and thieves, they need to return every single money that they stole from the Ethiopian people and give it back to these countries. It cannot, as African people, we cannot allow this to happen. Okay, nobody voted for these dickheads to come in power. Nobody voted for them. Nobody wanted them to come in, and they've been killing so many people, imprisoning people, and it's never featured on their stupid fake news. Which, yes, Obama is 100%, not Obama. Trump is 100% correct. It's fake news. So they're crappy fake media, that pretends that, oh, there are partners in, there are partners in the war on terror. They did this whole lie with Obama and stuff, and it's just like they're the ones that are the bad ones. And that's why, in a way, I support Trump, because at least he's like a breath of fresh air. He's someone different. Like, he's just blunt. He's a typical Gemini. Like, he just stands his ground and will not be controlled and stuff. So the best thing that could have happened to the world is Trump, because we're seeing a lot more change and stuff in this world, and it's a good thing. So I'm just happy that the Sudanese people are protesting and standing up for their rights. They're not going to be pushed about and bossed about in 2019 by this brute. His regime is coming to an end, but his money needs to be returned back to Sudan. It's just unacceptable that £9 billion can be just taken from the country like that and just put in a safe haven in the UK. It's just not on. Like, stop facilitating criminals, stop facilitating dictators that kill people, and stop being quiet about it as well. It's just so obvious. Like, you're involved. Like, you put these idiots in power. And the fact that Egypt is also involved, because Egypt is a proper ally of England, isn't it? Because they just rely on the water of Africa and the mud of Africa, because they're not even ethnically African. They come from Greece and Rome. So they're just so insecure of black unity, and the people are rising, and the Sudanese people are rising, thank God. So hopefully, they rise up and they will unite with the South, because they were always one country. They should never have, split up. That, again, that whole thing was done by the West to split them up. And, they should literally go back and join once this horrible man, Bashir, goes away. The South should rejoin with the North. And the North is not Arab, for God's sake. They're still black. Okay, just because they're Muslim doesn't mean they're Arab. So they need to stop with the fake lies that they've done on that country. The people there are just as dark as Ethiopians. They look the same. They're not Arab. So stop labeling black African people Arab when they're not, just because they happen to be Muslim. So I'm really happy that they've managed to protest, and the human rights abuses need to be aired around the world of what Bashir is doing. Bashir is trying to hold on to his his teeth, but he needs to go. And people are protesting. People are being obviously tortured because that's what they do. And yeah, I just thought I'd talk about what's happening in Sudan, and it's about time that they finally got rid of this man, and hopefully to also bring the money back to Sudan where it belongs, because there's no reason for £9 billion of Sudanese money staying in the banks of the UK. It needs to go back to Sudan. It needs to go back to the people. That's blatant theft, disgusting theft. £9 billion does not need to be in the UK economy. It needs to go back to Sudan where it came from. And Bashir needs to go to jail. In fact, the account needs to be frozen once they finally get rid of this fool. So, yeah, anyway, I'm Mr. Rena Star, and I'll be back with another vlog, and I'll be back again.